at his office. I remember that very well.
Do you know anything about some CBS News photography that was made at the airport when Love tried to bring it back?
No, I never did even see no picture on that.
And there's this guy.
Let me just refresh your memory on that one, Mr. Hodges.
Kind of the story you told me a little while ago about working, hearing about, and coming home and hearing about it. I'd like to hear that whole memory, if you would.
Well, I was working in Alexander City, Alabama, and I didn't know anything about it until I got into Sylacauga, and some guy on the corner told me about it. So I went home. It's a lot of people there. I finally got in, and that's when I found out. Still didn't know what happened. All I knew, the chief police had come and got it and left with it.
Was there actually people on your porch?
Oh man, you couldn't even get in. I had to push them out of the way. They even, with the place there where you leave that old 280 at now,
Yeah.
on down to that house place, all the way across there, worse than a ball game. You couldn't get in there. I bumped 2 or 3 vehicles trying to get through my pickup. And I finally just got down there close to the house and got out and walked on up there.
Could you get in the door yourself?
Well, you could tell by my size, I wasn't a little fella, and I pushed my way in. I pushed some of them out of the way, but I got in.
Let me ask you this. Did you remember a story? I'm going to stand over here so you can be looking at me right at the camera. Do you remember a story where they were lined up to go in the house and some old boy told you to wait your turn in line?
No, I don't remember. Okay. You probably don't want to know what I said if you did. I probably put him out of the way. Because I remember getting a hold of some of them pushing them aside. And someone said, "Who is that?" And they said, that's Eugene Hodges. He lives here, that knew me. And all. So.
Let's go back one step before we go any further. You were down in Alex City working with your crew.
Yeah.
And you were the crew boss. Now tell us about that and what you heard and everything like that.
Well, I really didn't hear anything. Some of the men said they heard an explosion and something and all. And I said, oh, probably someone blasting over or something. Well, I don't even, sometime in the afternoon, I don't know what time it was.
Okay. So now tell it in detail like you told us before. You're driving home and you come along and you get to Fort Williams and you turn left and tell us what happened.
Yeah. Well, I come down Broadway, and I turn left on Fort William and go west out to the place and all.
And some old boy in the corner said what?
Yeah, well, the boy in the corner hollered, "Hey, Hodges," said, "you better hurry on home. Something fell through your house today and hit your wife." So I taken off. That's it.
And you put the pedal to the metal and
yeah.
Got up on 280 and what happened?
Well, I went on to the house and I had to force my way in where it was at.
Okay, take it over from there.
I'm just going to tell you that my father, Cody Hall, I'm from Anniston.
Yeah.
Was one of those reporters on your lawn.
What he?
Yeah. He said he went down there to cover a plane crash, and by the time he got down, it was just like a circus.
Yeah. Well, the place was covered up with people.
Apparently.
Phone never quit ringing. Mr. Travis, he was a distant telephone man. He called me and wanted to know if I wanted him to have him lay some lines out there to my house, and I told him no. I was on a party line, and everybody was hollering.
Oh my gosh! So you did. So the people were calling you on the phone.
Oh, they was calling me from
reporters and people standing
every place, just about it.
Now you walked in the house.
Yeah.
You got to work your way in the crowd. Let's cover that. You hadn't even seen Ms. Hodges yet. You walked
No,
in the house.
I hadn't seen her. So.
How was she when you first saw her?
Well, you could tell she was real upset and all, and so I asked her if she wanted to go to the doctor. She said, no, not now. So we'd take her to the doctor later on, but I don't know what time it was.
Had Dr. Moody been out to the house already?
Not when I got there, and no doctor been there, but the doctor did come out later. And
so the doctor didn't come out until later.
Yeah, till after I got home.
So you got home then 4:30 or 5?
No, maybe 5. I say I got home around 5:30.
By then, the meteorite's already gone.
Oh yeah, it was gone. They said they was out there just in a few minutes and picked it up.
Where did the helicopter land?
I don't know. I think it landed in Sylacauga, and the chief and the Air Force came out there together and picked it up. What I was told, I don't know. I couldn't get the chief to talk to me. I couldn't hem him up to hold him long enough.
He was pretty busy, I guess.
Yeah,
Everybody seemed to be.
Yeah, he dodged me every time he seen me.
Now, what did she say to you when you came in and basically you said, honey, what's going on?
Yeah.
What did she tell you had happened?
She said something come through the house and hit me. And said it hit that radio, then it hit me and it rolled out on the floor and said the policeman picked it up and left with it. So I found out from someone else it was the chief. She just knew it was a policeman.
So he didn't want to have to confess that he'd taken the meteorite without your permission, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get him to do, and what he said, told me, he said the Air Force is one taking it, and nothing I can do about it. I told him, I said, you didn't have authority to go out there in my house and pick it up until I got there. I said, you knew my wife wasn't capable of telling you could take it or leave it. And so we had quite a few words.
And so, when did Miss Hodges go in the hospital?
I think it was the next day we put her in the hospital. I believe it was the next day.
She stayed in there for several days.
I don't know just how long she was in the hospital, several days though.
What did you call her? What was her name?
Ann,
Ann. Why did people in the press and everywhere else call her Annie?
I don't know. It didn't have no E on it. It's just A-N-N.
I was wondering about that too. Her name, of course, was Ann Elizabeth.
Yeah,
And I was wondering if her name Ann E. Hodges
no.
translated into Annie somehow. What did you call yourself?
Well, so most of that us boys, there's several of us, we go by our initial. They call me E.H. Eugene H. E.H. And so that's the way I usually sign my name as E.H. Hodges.
E.H. Hodges. That's been some kind of a question. They have your name spelled every way from Sunday.
Yeah. Well, now everybody calls me Gene. My name is Eugene Hewlett Hodges. But everybody up here calls me Gene. You move around, people give you a different name.
How do you spell, what's the proper spelling for Hewlett?
H-U-L-I-T-E.
1, 2?
Yeah. Some people puts 2 in it, but I don't.
Just curious. That's been one of the questions that I've had to try to answer as I work through here. Let's see what else is on here. She ran the store across the street there?
Yeah, she had a little store and lived over at, well, it's on down 280, further west than where I live. It was right on 280, the store. And she also lived there close by. And she owned several houses around that area.
Why did she seem to have such a bad attitude about this?
I really don't know. She was money hungry. She was well off financially, but she wanted more. And she was telling me it's my property and all, and I told her, I said, I have a lease on it. It seemed like it's my property till my lease is up. And we had it back in 2. And I finally told her, I said, well, I don't really give a damn whose property it is, but I'm keeping the meter. And I did keep it.
So Huell, for the most part, has this thing locked in his safe until the court case is decided, right?
That attorney, he pretty well run the show. And he pretty well got in on it when they started buying the rights and all, too. I don't know exactly how much he got out of it, but more than I did.
What was the best offer you ever got for it?
Well, before he put out all that publicity, the Atlanta Constitution. I believe, I don't know, it was way up, some museum in Arizona was wanting to buy it. And he still got those papers and things. My wife turned over all that stuff to him. But we had papers saying that due to all the publicity and all, they wouldn't be interested in it anymore. But I forget how much it was.
Do you still have any paperwork?
I have one or two pictures of Ann's all where it hit. I don't have any. No, he got it all. When he talked to her and gave him power of attorney, he cleaned the house while I was at work, see. And it wasn't,
When was that?
I don't know. It's after we moved out here.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Do you still have any photographs of that era for yourself?
no, I have one or two in there that I think showing where it had hit her and all.
Do you recall the man from the Smithsonian coming down to talk to you to buy the meteorite?
I remember a little about it, but I don't remember a whole lot about it.
What do you remember about it?
Well, he just asked me a lot of questions and all, what my best offer was and all this stuff. I don't.
Did he make an offer?
I really don't know. I wouldn't want to say yes or no.
Yeah. I wouldn't want you to do anything you didn't feel comfortable with. Let's see what else we got. Oh, these are letters that I guess Mr. Love got from various people. There's that cartoon
Yeah,
somebody sent him.
yeah. He should have been one of them.
So you think maybe that he's really one of the main participants of this thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was on jury duty up here in this county. You know, they asked you if you ever had any dealings or know any of the attorneys. And so when they asked me, he had a case. And so when they asked me, I told them the judge was asked. I said, yes, sir. And they want to know which one. I said, that damn sorry Huey P. Love over there. That's just the words I said. He said that'll be enough, Mr. Hodges, to get you tempt to court. And said, you may sit down. I sat down. But so they let me come home. He wouldn't get close to me. He'd go way around that courtroom. I never could get him up, talk to him. But there's a lot of laughing going on when I told him that.
I bet there was. Did you go to New York with?
No, I didn't go. He just went on his own.
Now I'm talking about you when you.
No, on that though, I have a secret. Yeah. No, and their mother went. Yeah. Back those days, I had to have that payday coming in. You crew foreman back then, if you want a job, you stay on it.
Yeah.
So, I didn't go.
So her mother went with her.
Yeah.
I would love to find a photograph of her on that show, and I can't. Nobody can tell me where one is.
Huey P. Love has them. He has them. Because she got a bunch of them back after that. I remember him being here. He got all that stuff. And he got it till this day, I guess. But where he'd let you see it or not, I don't know.
Is he still alive?
Oh, well, I couldn't answer that. I think he is, though. Last report I had, he had, there's my reporter right there. That's him. That's one that come in with Love that night.
Huh. Okay. All right. That'll help some. I just didn't know who. Now. This is Mayor Hodges, I think, and this is
Mayor Howard.
Howard, excuse me,
Yeah.
Howard, And this is George Swindle, who was the geologist that examined the meteorite. Did you ever meet him?
I don't remember. I met so many people I really couldn't tell you.
Thing and a drawing of it. These are the pictures out of the article that described it in the Science Journal. There's yours, and then there's the one hit the over there that the black guy found. What's his name? McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
You know anything about that one?
I heard it on the news. That's all I know.
Now you met Hal Povenmire some years ago. Came out to interview you about this thing.
Yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, I think he was here twice.
He sent his regards, by the way. I talked to him on the
Oh,
phone, and he said, "Remember."
Good, he's a nice fellow, real nice.
He's been very helpful.
Yeah, we've been invited to come down to Space Center now.
Do you ever? Are you well enough to travel around some?
Well, I think I will be in a few days. I'm still, kind of short-winded. I don't think the doctor let me do much right now.
Well, if we can get your son and you maybe over to Tuscaloosa, I'd love to give you a tour of the Bryant Museum
And
over there. And I called them to see if we could get you into a game or something like that. And they said there's probably basketball tickets still right now, but football was a long way off, as they put it.
yeah,
But when I talk to your son, I'll make him that offer.
yeah.
Get you
Well,
down here.
I mentioned to him last night. He said, "Yeah, I did enjoy that, Dad." And
So he went on to college and has a degree.
my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went to Kennesaw. Then he went back to North Georgia criminal law.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he met, but he didn't stay for his master. And he may go back and get that. He's interested in stuff like that, but he went to
Is he
work.
interested in becoming a law enforcement officer? Or?
I don't really know. His mother told me he was looking at when he was up north where it's so cold, said when he got back, but he didn't say anything last night about changing jobs or anything, but
Well, a degree in.
he told me he was coming back. He was coming down. Well, he was going to come down Monday, but he wouldn't have much time. So in 2 weeks, he'd probably be down for a couple of days.
In a minute, I'll get that address and things from you. I'll give him a call and I'll send him a copy of everything involved. Did you say you worked for the power company?
Contract with telephone company.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Buchanan Construction.
Buchanan Construction? Oh, okay. All right. I remember them.
At the time this happened, I was working with this Beaver Claren out of Jacksonville, Florida. I went to work down in Hollywood, Florida, and I came back. Well, I'm a World War II veteran, and down there, then I got transferred from down there to Huntsville, and I wound up here. I went all around over Alabama, and finally I said, I'm not a racehorse. I said, I want a place I can buy and get tired of this moving, so they gave me this.
Where are you from?
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay. And so how did you get mixed up with a Florida construction crew?
Well, my folks had moved to Florida during the war, and all, and about half of them was down there and half of them here. And when I got back to Mississippi, I figured I'd rather a job would be better in Florida. And after I did a little running around in Mississippi, everybody I know 3 years ago was gone, and then nothing seemed to be familiar. And I said, my first cousin and I, he was World War II veteran, and we was good friends. And I told him one day, I said, Jake, I said, hell, let's go to Florida. He said, well, we're waiting on him. We'd take it off. He's still down there.
And you were a medical corpsman
Yeah.
with the Marines?
No, Army.
In the Army?
Army.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you had been in the Navy.
No,
Oh, okay.
No.
Where all did you go?
Well, mostly I was wound up in Hawaii most of the time, 147th General,
Mm-hmm.
and I was lucky. I stayed there at that big hospital.
And so you.
I was going to volunteer for other, but see, it was 5 of us brothers in service, all in Pacific at the same time. All of us came back home about, didn't any of us get wounded. And most, all but me, was on the front lines. And my brother, which is living now, he's the only one that was in the service living, and my younger brother, he's still living. And he came by a lot of times, set up, he's in the Seabees, Navy, and they could travel a lot. And I found out that he was over on that other island, and I was a sergeant. And the sergeant back then had pretty good pull in service. And so I went down to the office and talked to the commander and told him that brother's over, I need to talk to him. And he said, no problem, Sergeant, come on in here. And we had his commander on the phone right away, and he'd let him take a PT boat and come over and visit me. Then he'd come over and get me, and I could go over and visit him. It went on that about a year about like that. Then he went on down Okinawa and around.
Oh, that's neat.
But
Now, where did you meet Mrs. Hodges?
in Florida, after World War II.
No, she's not local either.
Huh?
Is she local? Is she?
No, she's really from Huntsville,
Uh-huh.
but she was living in Florida when I met her.
There's a picture of her here. I was going to ask you about. There's the old burned house, burned a few years ago.
I didn't know that. That's the first time I've seen that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That was in the Talladega paper. Sorry to see that happen. Now,
That was a long time ago.
yeah, very young there. What do you think? High school, maybe?
Yeah.
Now, what is that photograph?
That's about the way she looked when I met her, I guess, something
Uh-huh.
like that. Maybe not hardly that heavy.
Uh huh. So you think that's a picture after you were married?
Yeah, that picture after I said.
Oh, good. All right, I'm just curious about. Yeah, there's tombstone, whatnot, and things I'd like to know. Anyway,
Damn, y'all have been getting around, haven't you?
pardon?
Y'all been keeping up with it, haven't you?
Well, you know, this thing that you're involved in is a one of a kind event.
Yeah, well, I realize
And
that.
that's never happened to anyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
And despite the fact there's so many people on Earth and everything now, in 50 years there's never been anybody else. And before her, there's no authenticated notion of all of this. So I am retired from the museum now,
Yeah.
and I am determined, though, before I lay this project down, I'm going to have an accurate, factual story
Report,
to
huh?
tell.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
that's what I'm trying to do here, and we're going to probably post it on the internet so that folks want to know the facts
truth
of the
can
matter.
pick it up, huh?
Trying to think what other things I had. Married. Do you recall?
I had it. I don't remember
Well,
what.
it's mean of us just to kind of show up here and expect you to remember things that are 50
Oh.
years old.
We were married in West Point, Mississippi. Well, what year? Let's see. That was 40. I guess that must have been 49.
49.
Now don't ask me what date.
Yeah, oh no. See, what's it? As you said,
Yeah, it was.
kind of gotten away from me here.
It was 49. Cause my relative lived up there, and we went back, and the '50 model Ford came out. Cause we looking at a new Ford. No, man, it had to be in 49.
Let's see. Actually, on your
Did,
porch
did, Ann
address,
do, did Ann do any type of work prior to getting married?
Yeah. Well, after up here, she worked at one of those stores uptown.
Oh, you mean that was afterwards though?
Yeah.
That was Grant's where she worked at Grant's.
Yeah, Grant.
But prior to y'all getting married, did she?
I don't think she worked any place. I don't think her mother lived in Huntsville, and she'd go to Florida and stuff like that. Now, she worked down there, but what places, I don't know. She wasn't working. She was just visiting whenever I met her. And I done the work after that.
That's right.
yeah.
And
So,
I guess the only job she had up here was at Grant's.
so why was her mother down here when the day the meteorite fell?
Well, she wanted to come and live with us. She lived with us on up till after we separated and all. That was. Then she went to, well, she lived with Ann then. And all.
And then eventually they.
Well, Ann passed away. Then her mother went with her son until she passed away.
And so that's why Ann is buried in
Yeah.
Jackson County.
Yeah, because all her folks is from Huntsville. And
Didn't they live in a house across from Dixie Drug on the side of the road?
yeah, at the time and all, yeah. Right there close to Dixie Drug. Oh, I visited him, looked after him and all, but we just, things happened before that.
Mr. Hodges, when were you born?
When was I born?
Yes, sir.
That's kind of a personal question.
Well,
You want me to answer that like I answer?
1940,
You want me to answer that like I tell the women?
yeah.
Old enough to know better, too young to resist.
Old enough. All right, let me write that down. Old enough to know better.
Too young to resist.
Too young to resist. I like that. I'll use that one.
Yeah. I want the royalty off of it.
Gee whiz.
1922 to answer your question.
Yeah.
I'm 82.
Well, I didn't.
I'm
thought
lucky
you
to
were
be
old
here that long.
enough- I thought you were old enough not to be too vain about it.
Yeah. I was just kidding. I had to throw that in for a little laugh.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna use it. Old enough to know better, too young to resist.
That's what I tell the women. They ask me.
Uh,
Some of them ask me, am I sure?
so you're not just really not quite sure why this guy had such a mean attitude toward the thing.
The only thing I can come up with is just money hungry. Just money hungry.
You know, Hal Povenmire tells the story about when he came up, one of the times he came to visit you,
Yeah,
went over to try to interview her,
yeah,
and the first words out of her mouth to him was, "Do you pay for interviews?"
yeah.
And he said no, he was just trying to get the history. She turned around and walked off.
That's me as a
Wouldn't
guy.
even speak to him.
That's me as a guy.
Well, I just wonder if you didn't like.
I
if you just
wonder.
didn't like Hal.
I think someone told me she wanted to know how much I got out of it, and she said I'm man the same. Now this is hearsay. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past her because she seemed like a wonderful person when I was leasing the place. She didn't give me any trouble as a renter. Of course, I always paid her, or Ann did one, would pay her. Well, first of the month, we always paid by check and all. Well, Ann usually did that, but most times she taking care of the bills. I told her, I said, that'll be your job. I said, I'll make sure money's in the bank to cover them. You make sure they get there.
You write the checks.
Yeah. So,
That was
but
always the way
I don't really know what made her feel that way, but that's the type person she was. So.
Not a very good photograph, and should be. I know what it is. It's that white door behind you. I'm gonna shoot you from the other direction.
That- Yeah, she, her husband was living whenever I got that place, but he had no say so. She was the boss,
Rule the roost.
and she would very seldom let him wait on you if you walked in the store. She would do it, or either if he go pick up an item for you, she'd be there for you to pay her, not him. I noticed that first time I walked in the store.
How'd you find that house?
That's a good story. Well, I had one across the road to start with, and I wanted that big one when it came available. Well, I leased it through her, and
Changed your life.
I don't know how I found the first one, but
It was a nice house.
yeah, I liked it. I wanted it. It had 12 acres of ground goes, and I wanted it because really I was a country boy. I grew up on a farm, and until I went into service, I was a country boy, and I wanted a little land. That's why I jumped on this. It's when I got it. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I said, got room enough to walk out of the house,
Sure.
So
I think you want to take a picture.
open that door and push it back.
Oh, it's fine.
I ain't got no tiger in there.
Just fine. That's good. Hold that. Now something is just. I don't know. I'm gonna do the other. I like that picture anyway. The story I want to hear is the story about
Me choking the doctor.
giving away the meteorite. Well, that's a good picture there. Well, that one is not because I moved. Problem with this. That's good. I don't mean to be. The collection of all this stuff is a good picture of you.
Yeah.
And if you have one.
Well, I'm like me as guy now. How much is in that picture deal? I'm not like me as guy.
How much do you pay for pictures? But the only pictures of you are these candid shots of you in your work clothes and everything like that. Tell us about Ann giving away the meteorite.
Well, there's not really much to say. I only came in one. I think something come up about it, and I said, "Oh, I'll just use it for a doorstop or something," and all. And so she asked me what I thought about giving it to the museum. I said, "I think that'd be a good idea." So I came in one day, and so she said she had given it to the museum. I said, "Well, good. I'll have to get me another doorstop," and that's about all I know about it.
Well, so you were pretty much.
Oh, I was for her
for
giving
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was a little. I don't think I quite understood that.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. That's just like the radio. I'd rather y'all to have it down there as be sitting here, but I want Gene to have the right to, to come or even use it. You can't never tell. He's a young man. Something might happen. He might want to put it on display for some kind of event sometime. But I'm sure he would bring it back to the museum. He told me, he said, Bennis did. He said, I might want it, or he said, I know I could go look at it and all, but he said, you can't never tell.
Sure.
So.
Well, one of the interesting things about the McKinney meteorite, is at the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
And the sign identifying it says nothing about, pure meteorite.
Is right?
Oh yeah, and they don't even mention it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think they're still sore.
Yeah.
I think they. I've always thought that was unusual. Photo of yourself.
Well, I had wondered why they hadn't wanted that. My banker, Mr. Wheeler, he's gone now, but he told me, now he said, Gene, you hold on to that radio. Someday it'll be worth a lot. He said, put it where people won't steal it. He said, really, he said, it should be at the museum with that meteor. And no, he says, it's going to prove out to be a value just about it as that other. And he was a smart fella and a fine fella too. Because
I think he's right. What I tell people, I've worked at the museum for nearly 30 years now, and I tell people that Alabama has a bad habit of letting our good stuff go.
man,
And I'd hate for the meteorite or the radio to wind up at the Smithsonian or someplace not in Alabama, where people from Alabama can't see it, and where people forget about it and can't be proud of it anymore. So I think the museum's the place for it.
I had thought about it before Bill called me, and then I said, well, Chef, yeah, that'd be fine. And my son said, yeah, that'd be fine. Just get me something where he said something might happen sometime. Another, he said, just probably never need it, but he said business is business. He said, I do business with Mom. He said, we get it in writing. He said, that's one thing I teach you, get it in your word. He said, that's nothing to argue with. So if you got something in writing, he said, that's all right. He said, someone borrow something from me. So he said, I have them to write out that they borrowed this thing, or if they owe me something. He said, I put it on file, and they said, oh no, I didn't get it. Said I could reach back and pull that out.
That's right. That's right. And I've got paperwork for
And
it.
so he's.
You told me you called yourself.
But I got to thinking, something happened to me. It might be something in this house he'd want, he might not, but I'm sure he wouldn't with that radio. But someone might be here at a sale that day, recognize that radio and know it someday it'd be value, and would just pick it up and load it up, and nobody say nothing to him. And I got thinking about it. Put it down there, you know where it's at.
You told me about the military. Did you retire from Buchanan?
Well, I came out on disability and retired, yeah. I had to come out early. Yeah, my son, since he was 5, and according to the doctor, I just worked too much. They finally give me a supervisor job running here and there, but I was real fortunate. I had my son start in that Christian Academy at daycare, and at 5 they figured he could start the school. They went through the 12th, and so I said, well, let's put him in school. And when he was in first grade, when his mother decided she wanted greener pasture, she went by one day and told him, Mama's leaving, won't be back. And so when I came in, you always come into the back there, park my pickup in the back. Note on the table there, if you want your son, go get him. I'm gone, ain't coming back. And so I called the school and told them I'd be there as soon as I could get there. And so when I pulled in, well, they're looking for him. I'd never been there. She always taking care of that, And so I started roaming around, and them teachers everywhere. Who are you? Where you going? Hold up there a minute. Two of them about to get me down. And so Gene come running out, hollering, hey, Daddy! And they said, well, I guess that's proof enough. But I had to sign a paper there
At least they were
that I would be picking him up, see. I was on the list that, you had to leave a list who's going to pick him up. I was on it, and they got the list. Said, well, we never met you, Mr. Hodges. Said, our rule, don't no parent come around in this building unless we know what he eats. I said, well, that's good.
When was he born?
In 74, October 13th.
He's as old as my son. No, he's
Just-
a little
just-
bit older.
He just celebrated his 30th birthday. Yeah. But they work things out now. They're the best of friends, and now she lives in Atlanta, and he lives over there, and in LJ, and they real good friends. Him and her were down here when everybody found out about my heart attack. She come with him, and all, so she ought to. I paid for 3 of her degrees for Sanford up there. She got a good job.
People change. It's
Yeah, she was working independent life in Birmingham, and she had an offer this in over Atlanta, Sewell or something like that. I don't know, some big outfit. She get her own office, and she said in a wooden desk that I'm tired of these plastic desks and chairs, and so, but she wouldn't go unless I'd let him go, and she had 2 weeks vacation in the summertime, so he went over and stayed with her a day or two, and they come back, and they went back and all, and so he said, well, she wouldn't take the job unless I let Gene go over and go to school. Well, at that time, they had closed this Christian Academy because it got too expensive. And I didn't have any other expense on paying for him, and I'd rather go there than anything I knowed. And I could afford to keep him out there, but I was going to have to put him in school. He's going to have to ride the bus and all. So he agreed to try it. And he said, if you'll come and get me if I don't like it. And I said, I'll come and get you. She said, if you don't like it, when you go to school, all you got to do is tell me and I'll bring you home. And so went over. That and the money she was giving me, I guess, made him like it. He went on, finished high school, and then went to college over 2 times. Now he has his own place over in LJ.
Is he married?
No. I asked him here a while back, I said, son, Dad's getting old. I said, what happened to my grandchildren? He said, you better be looking some other place, Dad. You look. He said, all I can do is take care of myself. But he's a big boy, 6'2", 260.
Is that right?
How large were you in your day?
Excuse me?
How big were you in your day?
Oh,
And when you were fighting weight?
6'4"?
No, I've never been over 6 foot. But I got up to about 240 after I made that, what's called, these companies, they have a working foreman and an unworking foreman.
Mm-hmm.
After I made the grade non-working foreman, I got up to about 240 as supervisor, but now I'm way around, I believe last time I was up there around 214 or something like that. I've lost a lot of weight.
You look taller than 6 feet.
Well, that's what I am exactly.
Yeah.
6 feet.
Yeah, you look big. You look big in that picture there.
I'm not bragging. I was a pretty good man there. They didn't push me around much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know here we'd go around setting these poles and all, I could just reach down and get the end of one of them poles, but if they wasn't pulling it around right, pick it up and throw it around. But you don't do that now.
We all think we're.
You don't miss the water till the well goes dry.
That's right. That's right.
You got anything else? Because I want to ask some questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, you come over here, and I want to come over and show you how to run this.
Okay.
I get to sit in that chair.
All right.
You sure you don't want some water or something?
No, I don't want anything.
I don't want to push you too far.
Make it go right now. It's going right now. And on the left, it says 44 something. When that gets to 60, let us know. Well, Mr. Hodges, I just wanted to run through some questions that we've already been over, but I just wanted to sort of get the record straight, because what we want to do is, for history's sake, is make sure that the story's accurate.
Okay.
So I may tell you I'm gonna ask you some questions, but I may say some things that I remember you telling me, and could be I'm wrong.
I may remember 'em, I may not. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So let's start back at the beginning, and you tell your version of the story. You're working with a crew out around Alex City somewhere.
Yeah.
You hear an explosion.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of your men says, "What was that?" And you said, "Well, I don't know. Maybe somebody's exploding some dynamite."
That's right.
All right. Now tell me the story. You're coming down Broadway and you turn left onto Fort Williams.
Yeah.
I want to hear in your words what happened right there. And
Well, what happened? Naturally, I increased my speed, and I got on out there about from 280 on down to that house. It was traffic, both sides of the road. I bumped a few getting down through there. I finally got to the yard, and I got out, and I had to force my way in the house.
okay. Now, the house at the front door, that front porch.
Yeah.
And people are lined up going in, and you forced your way in there.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at your wife. Is she in the bed at this point?
Yeah, she's laying down, yeah.
In the bed. And the way I remember you telling me this is she said, "Honey, we've had a lot of excitement around here today."
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
Okay.
Something like that effect, I don't know.
And
I asked her what happened. She pointed up that hole and all, and told me, she said, it hit that radio and bounced off and hit me and fell out on the floor, and the policeman picked it up.
All right, let's don't get to the policeman just yet. Here's what I remember when you telling me all those years ago when I interviewed you. Here's the way my mind remembers it. She was asleep, and it bounced off the radio and hit her, and she had a quilt up over her.
Yeah, that's what they said,
It
yeah.
rolled off on the floor, and she woke up out of a daze, like we all wake up
Yeah,
when we're asleep.
yeah.
And her mama was walking into that room, and her mother said, "What happened?" And Ann said, "I think the chimney's falling down."
Said something like that. I don't remember exactly that far back, but
But then they looked over and they saw the what they called the rock.
yeah.
And what'd they do?
Well, I don't know exactly what they did at that time, but I don't know where they called the police or something, how they got there. I don't know that. But I know the police was there.
Okay. Here's what I remember, and you tell me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, because we're all very interested in this history.
Well, I don't remember that far back.
All
What?
right. Well, here's they found the rock,
Yeah.
and they didn't know what it was, and then so they kind of huddled together and looked up at this thing in the ceiling because it'd come through. The ceiling.
They thought it was part of an airplane that fell.
Right.
What they thought it was.
Right.
But
Now I remember that she picked up the phone, or her mother did, and called either the fire department or the police department.
they called somebody. I don't know who they called.
Now, one of the stories I heard was that that they thought a vandal had thrown a rock in the house. Do you recall?
They told me they thought it was an airplane,
Uh-huh.
piece of airplane. And all. I think they had heard a roaring or something and all, and they thought it part of that plane had exploded and about a piece of it coming through the house. Now, that's what they told me. But anyway, whoever they called, that resulted in the police and all of them.
Do you remember first saying if the rock was hot or cold or had any smell to it or anything?
And not when I seen it. I didn't see it for several days after that.
But you don't remember if she ever said it did?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, from a story I remember, she called the fire department, the police department, and the man who answered the phone said, "This might be that thing everybody's hollering about."
Yeah, I remember saying that. Said it would be somebody right out there, and that's when they showed up.
Right. So now,
But they were done come and gone before I got there. But I'd say at least 50 people, probably more than that, up and down that road and in my yard when I got there.
let's go back one step to the corner of Fort Williams and Broadway. You turned left off of Broadway, and there's a boy standing on the corner. And what did he yell at you?
He hollered, "Hodges, you been home? You better hurry up and get home." Said something fell through your house and hit your wife this afternoon.
And that's when you put.
I don't know who he was. I put the pedal to the metal.
So she called the police, and they came out. And that's when, sometime in there, a bunch of people came out, but that's when the geologist came out and said they didn't know what it was, and that's when he said it was. Of course, you weren't there.
Yeah.
But that's when he said this is a meteorite.
I don't know, but anyway, the Air Force taken over, and all. But the chief of police, toward the end, he once picked it up out of the floor. Cause I asked, I said, which one of them picked it up? Cause I was pretty upset about them going in the house, taking it and leaving. And like I said back then, well, if I paid rent on something, that was my place. Nobody had no right coming in there about my permission. And so.
Sure. So now, she called the police. The police came out there. The police took it away. The crowd was coming in the house.
Yeah.
And you got home and you talked with her. And at that moment, you said you want to go to the doctor. She said, I don't think so, not today.
Yeah, she didn't want to go to the doctor at that time.
But who came in and talked to y'all the night? That night, was it there some reporters or anybody like that?
I don't know. It was so many people in there asking questions, the phone was ringing. I couldn't tell you. You didn't get no. I didn't get no rest that night. It went on like that for not days but weeks. There wasn't so many people there, but the phone just continued ringing all the time. They were calling you from all over the United States.
Right. Do you happen to remember your phone number?
I guess probably the same one I got now. 245-7812.
Okay.
I think that's what I had then, wasn't it?
Remember back in those days we had chapel.
Yeah.
Remember chapel, and you had that party line, so it'd ring a certain way.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Did you say 245-7812?
Yeah, wasn't that what I had then?
I don't know.
We
I'm
can-
going to write it down.
They were supposed to give me my same number when I come out here,
Makes sense.
because I had the phone transferred out here.
Now, so that night you were glad your wife wasn't hurt any worse
Yeah.
than she was, but you were upset because they'd taken something that belonged to you.
Yeah, I was upset for a long time.
Did you tell anybody that night? You remember telling anybody that you're upset about? That, but the chief of police wouldn't talk to you, right?
Well, I didn't get to talk to him that night, and all it was about 2 days later. The next day, I didn't go to work. I called in and told them I wasn't going to work, which they didn't give me no problem with being off. And I didn't get to talk to him that day. They'd always, every time I'd go, would say he's not in. And I didn't want to call in. I was going up there at his office, and I didn't get to talk to him. So I guess it was the next day I saw him crossing the street, so I just pulled over the curb and jumped out and told him, I said, Chief, I've been hunting all over hell for you. I want to talk to you and want to talk to you now. So we had quite a conversation.
What did you say?
Well, I don't remember what all, but he told me he better go, I better cool off and before he lock me up or something. I told him, I said, you better call your whole damn force. And so, I don't know. But it got pretty hot. But I didn't go to jail.
Okay.
I know that.
Something just occurred to me. You were the only man in history to ever call into work and say, I can't come in today because yesterday my wife got hit by a falling star.
Is that right? Yeah, I guess so. I got something to brag about.
So now, basically at this point, then Ann went in the hospital.
Yeah.
And were there reporters and stuff coming to the hospital?
Oh yeah, they were going after I got her in the hospital and stuff like that. I went on work and I'd go up in the afternoon back in 2 and all.
All right, tell us the story. I'm sorry.
And I liked she got some way or other Dr. Pitchford Jr. It got to be her doctor some way or other. I don't know, but he has a place down on the lake, or he did at that time. I don't even know if he's still living or not. Someone told me he was. And he would just give her medicine stuff and go on 2 or 3 days. She wouldn't be no better, be just laying there. Yeah, I would give out, worked all day, and her mother was trying to, I'd check on her mother, then I'd get a bath and go up there and all. So 2 or 3 days he hadn't been there, and so he was coming down the hall that night as I was going in, and so I just reached and got him in the collar like this and bumped his head against the wall a few times, got his attention, and I told him I didn't want him back in the room no more. And so Dr. Gelma, which was the head of the hospital, why I saw him at night, and I told him, I said, Dr. Gelma, I'd like for you to take over and take care of my wife. And I knew Dr. Gamble. He said, well, he said, we don't usually do that, Mr. Hodges, to change from one doctor to the other. I said, your sign says over where you have the right to choose your doctor. I said, aren't you the head administrator of this place? And he sort of grinned and said, yeah. If you want me to take over? I said, I don't want Dr. Pitchford back in the room no more. I said, I done had a little run-in with him and told him to get his bills ready and I'd take care of it tomorrow and I come in. And so I wouldn't worry.
Was that when Ann was sick with that staghorn stone, or was that back when she got hit by the meteorite? I thought her doctor on the meteorite was Dr. Moody.
Jacob.
Moody Jacobs.
Yeah.
But Dr. Gammon was treating her when she was sick with that staghorn.
That's when this was. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Jacob was the one that treated her on that. Washam was her doctor. And Washam didn't want to treat her because he wasn't good enough for me to call out the house. That was the answer he gave me on the phone. And I wanted him to come on out here. He said, no, I wasn't good enough yesterday, and I ain't good enough today. So I told him what he could do. And I said, you're not the only doctor. And so that's when Jacob taken over.
I got you.
Then Dr. Gamble taken over
I see.
later.
Okay. Now let's go back to when Ann's in the hospital with the meteorite.
Yeah.
There was a photograph in Life magazine. Tell us the story about how that photograph was taken. The one where the doctor's Moody Jacobs is holding up the sheet, and there's that bruise on her leg.
I remember seeing the picture, but I don't really remember how it happened.
Well, the story I heard was that the photographer came in.
That was the story I told you.
Well, a story I heard back in the old days was that the doctor said, the photographer said, Dr. Jacobs, where did it hit her? And he just didn't even ask her. He just lifted up the sheet.
Yeah.
And that's when he took that picture, and she's looking so surprised, and there's that bruise.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying you weren't too happy about that. Of course, I know it's been a long time.
I don't remember that part.
Well, what did she do when that Life magazine article came out? Well, how did she feel about all that publicity?
Well, I don't remember just what she said about it, but she was kind of upset about it.
Okay,
well, she was kind of upset about several things that happened, so I don't remember.
Okay. So you go home, and at this point, the efforts are to get back what's rightfully yours.
Yeah.
And to either sell it or whatever, do whatever with it. And so what happened next?
Well, at that time, I didn't even think about selling it. I just wanted because it hit there and all, and I didn't even know it'd be worth anything. As far as I was concerned, it was a part of that plane. But I know if it's part of that plane, I was going to make the Air Force at least fix the house or do something.
Well, then at this point in the hospital, I believe you knew it was a meteorite.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Well, so what I'm saying is when she gets out of the hospital and you go home, you want to get that meteorite back.
Oh, yeah, that's when I hard love.
So did Love come to see you at home?
I think I drove Talladega to see him.
Okay. Why'd you go see Mr. Love?
I don't think I had used him before then, but I guess someone had probably recommended and told me about him. Mm-hmm. And why I didn't use one in Sylacauga, I don't know. But
and he charged you $500.
$500.
And you went to
and he went to New York to get it.
Washington or New York?
Washington.
Well, I think he went to Washington,
Okay.
didn't he?
Okay. Okay, so now he comes back with it. Does he give it back to you and Ann, or does he keep it?
Him and this Hogan and two ladies with white gloves comes in sometime after dark before we go to bed. Had it to me, same picture right there you showed, and I had it sitting on the side of the bed talking to her, inspected it.
Okay.
And them ladies would rub it and would nothing come off on it.
And from the time Ann came back from the hospital, do you remember about how long that was before the meteorite came back?
No.
Maybe a week, or it wasn't a month or anything, was it?
No, it wasn't really that long.
Okay. All right.
No.
So now it's in your possession,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about maybe selling it or whatever.
You're running out of time fast.
Okay, you got 5. Once it goes to 0, you got 5 minutes left.
Okay, all right.
All right. So at this point, you get notice from Ms. Guy that wait a minute, you may not be able to sell it. Ms. Guy claims it belongs to her. How
Yeah.
did you get that notice?
I don't know if she told me or not. She probably came over and told me. I don't know how I got the notice.
Now she hired Charlie McKay.
Yeah. That's how McKay and Love got into it. If I'd ever thought I'd have hired Charlie McKay to start with, because we turned out to be real good friends. So,
Oh, sure. Let me just stop one second. Is it still running?
It's still running.
But it's still running.
It's still running.
It should run to 65.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So maybe you were going to sell it or something, but then all of a sudden here she comes and she says, "I claim ownership too."
yeah.
Okay. So then all the letters start coming in from around the country about fight Miss Guy for the meteorite. It's rightfully yours. God sent it to you. How did Ann feel about all that?
Well, she felt like it was hers. I remember her saying, if she wants it, I wish it would hit her, then it could have been her or something like her. It hit me, and it should be mine. And you know how to talk. I don't know exact words.
At this point, was the meteorite in Hewell's safe?
No. I don't really remember it being in his safe.
Okay.
He brought it home, and we kept it. But I told him, I said, hell, I paid you $500, I'm going to keep it. And he didn't try to take it. So, far as I remember, he never did. After one time he walked in and handed it to me, well, he didn't get it no more. He probably looked at it when he was down here one night at work, going behind my back, get that power of attorney and all that stuff.
So he went behind your back and got a power of attorney from you?
Yeah, I was at work. I didn't know nothing about it. So I come in and she told me.
And that gave him the power to do
Whatever he wanted to.
as far as
That's when we started getting letters from this museum, Arizona, saying due to all the publicity, Atlanta Constitution, well, they had our pictures up on power poles, telephone poles, and everywhere else. So that killed the value of it. And he was cause of that.
So after a while, it was a big story. But after a while, it's sort of
It
a...
just like you closed the door. If I personally feel, and I told Love on the phone, I won't say exact words I told him, look at that.
I wanted to go back, the tape ran out. You were... let's see. Hugh Love brought it back to y'all, charged you $500, and you had it in the house.
Yeah.
And then it was worth something because people wanted it. But then what happened?
Well, I don't know. I kept it, and then we started getting all kind of phone calls, this stuff, that, and the other, and Love was handling it, and I more or less just let him and Ann do the handling, but it surprised me when I come in. I'd never give him a power of attorney. If I'd have been here, she wouldn't have given a power of attorney because I'd have stopped it. But when she gave him a power of attorney, I told her, I said, well, you just cut your throat. I said, hell, he can do anything he wants to now. And I said, you won't get nothing out of it. And so it just went from there down. You just quit hearing about it.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, he was the one who was out trying to sell it, and then he got all this publicity.
Yeah, he got all that publicity, and Atlanta Constitution, see, bought him off. That's what it was. Long story short, I can't prove it, but I know it. I told him to his face that's what happened. Of course, he said, no, I had a sworn duty or something to uphold the law. I told him he wasn't no damn part of the law.
Now, you and Miss Hodges were, of course, living in the house when the meteorite hit, and then when she went home from the hospital, you went back to the house. When
Oh,
the
yeah,
meteorite hit.
yeah.
How long after that did you move out down here?
Oh, I don't know. It seemed to me like I stayed across the... Well, I stayed there a long time. I was in 54. I had 54, and I rented right across the road. If you remember, it's a couple of little houses right there where the big house set on the right. If you go this way, I guess they're still there. Well, that going this way would be the last one. I rented that, and I stayed there until I bought this place. I bought this place in '56, March '56. So that's six.
What I'm saying is, when Hugh Love was coming over to your house and all that, you were still living in the place where the meteorite hit.
Yeah, on
okay.
up right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Hugh,
And he come on up and all. Matter of fact, I think he visited after we bought this place out here.
Now, all the interest after that Atlanta Constitution article came out, all the interest just kind of went away.
It went away.
Did Ms. Hodges go on I've Got a Secret before the Atlanta Constitution? Was it?
No, I think that was after that, wasn't it?
I don't know. Well, tell us the story about how she found out about that.
Oh, they contacted her.
Called her at home?
Yeah, wanting her to come on. And they wanted me to go, and I told her, I said, well, your mother never has traveled much. I said, I've did a lot of traveling. I said, let her pay her way and go and enjoy it. And I asked her, I said, would you go? She said, yeah, if you don't want to go. I said, I definitely don't want to go. And so her mother went with her.
Was she scared or nervous about being on TV?
Didn't seem to be.
Now tell me about you watching the show. Did you have a TV or?
Yeah, I had a TV. Because I bought the first one over there from Billy Hill. And we had trouble getting the picture in because one little booster. He kept telling me we could just move his house 5 foot either way. I said, yeah, if a frog had wings, you wouldn't bump his butt. But I bought a booster to get the picture.
So
yeah,
did you watch I've Got a Secret in your house there?
Yeah, and I think her Ann's granddaddy was visiting from Huntsville, and he watched it with me. Yeah.
What'd y'all think watching the show?
Oh, we enjoyed it. That was my favorite show anyway. I watched it all the time, and also, yeah, we were looking forward, to watch that program.
Yeah. Now, how far did she get? I mean, did it take them? Was it hard for them to figure out?
I think it was. I did know which one guessed it, but I done forgot now.
Dorothy Kilgallen or one of them?
I done forgot who was on it. Gary Moore was the host. I remember that,
Right.
But I don't remember those ladies was on it.
Now, she came back home, and what did she tell you about her experience in New York? The big
Oh,
city?
she enjoyed it. Yeah, she'd never been to New York. She enjoyed that.
And she now finally the Atlanta Constitution article came out. They had the offer from the museum in Arizona, and then you got the letter or the telegram from them saying
Yeah.
they weren't interested anymore.
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
Well, that pretty well wound it up. Only just phone calls, no.
Tell me about what you decided to do with it. The tape ran out when you said it became a doorstop. Tell me about that.
I told Ann, I said, well, don't worry about it. I use it for a doorstop. So
And then one day you came home from work.
she decided to give it to the museum.
That was here. That was at this house. That was at this house.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, they came here to get it. Yeah.
So that's door. Right
I
over
don't
here.
know if she called the museum or they contacted her, but anyway, they got in contact with each other.
So I'm gonna pan over on this door. That door, the point over there, Mr. Hodges, that front door right there, is that where it was?
That's one I was going to use for a doorstop. Because the extension wants to come to whenever you.
Right. Now, a story I remember you telling me that she said, well, the museum came and I gave it to him, and you sat down at the table and said, well, that's okay. And then she said, well, I wish it'd fallen off down the road where it never would have hit nobody.
Yeah, I think so. And so she told me, I believe, the museum, she told me the people's name that came, and I think they gave her a check for $25 or something, told her for you and your husband go out and have dinner on us sometime. Something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I believe the check was $25. and they told me they'd buy our dinner first.
Now, if she said to you, I remember years ago you told me she said she wished it fallen off down the road where it never would have hit nobody.
Yeah, she said a lot of times she wished she'd never heard of it or something.
Now, what do you suppose she meant by that?
Well, she just wished it hadn't hit her, I guess.
Now, why?
Well, man, she'd been through a lot of. You just imagine yourself laying asleep and something like that waking you up, and you see it laying on the floor, wonder what the hell is that?
Do you think she might have also been talking about all the turmoil it cost in the
I probably because
because she was pretty famous from then on. I mean, she was the
yeah,
the lady around.
well, she never did completely recover. You know, she had that nervous breakdown and all of that, and she never was the same person after that.
When was the nervous breakdown?
She just and shortly after that thing, not long after she went back home, she just went all to pieces. Just
You mean went back home? You mean y'all separated?
first time. No, when she, I put her in the hospital for the meteor. It was after she had went back home whenever she had the nervous breakdown.
Do you think that was due to the pressure around the meeting?
Well, that's what she thought, and that's what the doctors thought, and all told me it was.
Now, I remember one thing you told me, and I'm not trying to put history in your mouth. I'm just saying is that you thought it might have been that they gave her so many of those drugs like Valium and things to calm her down from all the event that it might have been the drugs that were bothering her.
That's what I told that doctor. I got bumped his head against the wall, because I'm pretty sure that he didn't only do her that way. He did all his patients, get up into stuff and go off and not come back one time. Because I know one time I went to him. I thought he was a good doctor, and all he went off, and he didn't come. Wait, I don't know what I was up there for, and I told the nurses, I said, well, I don't care where he's coming or not. I'm gonna get up and go to Birmingham, because I drove myself to the hospital, and I was getting up, getting my clothes. I was leaving the hospital. And they come in there and said they called, said give you this something to make you rest, and I didn't wake up till the next day sometime. Now, I know that, so I know he gives you dope, and they ordered for her to have that dope where they get by. The nurse told me, they said he does all his patients like that. Said sometimes they don't see him for 2 or 3 days.
Now, you suppose this encounter with the doctor was during the nervous breakdown?
Well, she never did get off of that stuff, because that's what caused our separation, was that. Like I said, I worked and turn her in and tell her how much money I need for operating for next week. Put the rest of it, keep out what you need, put the rest of it in the bank. And so I didn't know myself. I had no idea. I thought I was doing pretty good. Come to find out I didn't have no money. But she was on that dope. And,
Buying those pills and stuff.
Yeah.
I know I went through that myself, so I know what you.
And she, see, I had this house remodeled. You can't tell it now, but that's back in '64. I spent a lot of money on this house. I wanted to take off and be here with contractors. Oh, no, after they're through, no, I'll be here, I'll be watching everything, We had a contract drawn up to do this, that, and the other. Sometime I'd come in, inspect it in the afternoon. I'd come in and I'd tear this off. That carport, they built it, and it's 2 feet too narrow. I made them tear that down, and in the meantime, her and the foreman of the contractor was getting together that dope, and I didn't know what was going, didn't even speak nothing. And all, because I never had no reason to speak. And next thing I know, she had run off with that contractor. And I had to come up with quite a bit of money.
I see. And I'm going to turn the camera off and ask you this next question because
Work on the weekend at night, if I draw the same thing other deputies draw, get my 40 hours. So I did that for 8 years. We quieting it down around here.
Good. Speaking of that bank story, I want to bring up one more story. I did turn the camera back on because this is about the Hodges Meteorite. Ms. Guy, of course, filed suit claiming it belonged to her.
Yeah.
And y'all were going to go to trial, and Charlie McKay represented Ms. Guy, and Hugh Love represented you and Ms. Hodges.
Yeah.
Now, after a while, you decided to pay her off, or I guess Hugh Love recommended that you pay her off.
So much money.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
How much was that, and what do you remember about that?
I don't remember how much it was, but I know he come up for me to pay her and get her out of the picture. That we had a lot of money if we could get her out of the picture.
So you settled it by paying her off.
So got her out of the picture, then he takes a payoff from Atlanta Constitution. That's what happened.
But do you remember, have any idea how much that was, or did you go to the bank to get it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember how much it was, but I do know we paid her off.
Mm-hmm. Charlie McKay couldn't remember how much it was, but he just said she wanted her house fixed.
Yeah.
That's what she.
She wouldn't let me fix it. I wanted to fix it. She wouldn't let me fix it. Told me no. I said, hell, if you ain't gonna fix the hole, I'll move. And so I moved across the road.
Well, I know we've talked about a lot of things, but here we are. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to say, either emotionally or factually or anything at all?
I don't know. I just say, well, really, it messed my life up for good. And I guess only good thing happened after that was when I got married and had my son. And I'm proud of him. He's my world. And all. So, and he's doing great and got good health. Got a good education, good job. So you can't ask much more than that.
If you raise a son to be like that today, nowadays, you've done a good day's work.
Yeah, he was 5, and him and I until then, and all. I know one lady lived right over the hill here now. Used to own this body shop out here. You probably, whether you ever remember or not. But she told me after that, she said, whenever he was born, said I told the people in the community, said I feel sorry for that little fella for having Gene Hodges for a daddy. But she come to me several times since then, said how wrong I was. Said you've been the best dad that boy anybody in the community. Of course, my neighbor, they down me because, like I said, I didn't owe anything. I had a pretty good job. He didn't get everything he wanted, but he got what he needed and most of the things that he wanted. He had the first 3-wheeler here, and he owned 2-3 bikes. Then when he got big enough, I bought him the biggest 4-wheeler it was around here, stuff like that. And then when he graduated, I bought him a new pickup and stuff. Everybody said I tried to show off, just like when I kept him in that private school and everything. So, but
Is he Eugene H. Hodges? Eugene H. Hodges Jr.?
yeah.
I would like to get his address.
Ready?
Okay.
This is actual radio that the meteor hit. Struck it right here.
Okay.
And I am Gene Hodges Sr.
All right. Say, let's just start over again. Okay. My name. Look right at me and say, my name is Eugene Hodges.
My name is Eugene Hodges Jr. I mean Senior.
Let's start over.
Yeah, start over. You get me upset here. I was heading. You ready?
Yes, sir.
My name is Eugene Hodges Sr. and this is radio that the meteorite struck.
How did it do when it came through the ceiling? When the meteorite came through the roof, what happened?
It struck this radio right here.
Now, for history's sake, Mr. Hodges, is this the actual radio that was struck that day, November 30th, 1954?
Yes, it is.
All right, sir.
I've owned it all this time, and now I'm turning it over to the museum
All right, sir. Now,
for safekeeping.
okay. Now, sometime after the meteorite became yours, it became a doorstop in this house.
That's true.
And if you'd take that and put it down at the doorstop there. Right down there. All right. And sometime after, let's say sometime after we had it, the meteorite became a doorstop, and then I'll go down that and you say, well, we gave that to the museum, and now we're giving the radio.
Sometime after we got the meteorite, we used it for a doorstop, and now I'm giving it to the museum for safekeeping.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges.
That's pretty good.
Here, what about this?